man, that I did gave myself a big break. And you know what? That was what I was needed because all these personal things that I was suffering during this winter is gone. I gotta say. So I'm pretty much now in good health, and of course that having a good health. You might be asking why I am not reviewing the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Well, the answer is simple. I boycotted the movie. I am not gonna watch that movie on the movie theaters. Probably I might gonna watch it on the when it comes on streaming or on DVD. Because I have my ways to not give a dime to that movie because well, yeah, that actor that I don't like. You know who I'm talking about. And also, there's some other issues that I am having. Honestly, I wasn't too keen even on the trailers. I thought the trailers were pretty cringe and they give up a little bit too much. But you know what? This is Elimination. I know that it has its fans. Good for you. Good for you. So, but I'm not exactly that kind of guy. So, if I might gonna check it out when the time comes, but I decided to go with other priorities. So with that said, today I gave myself a double feature because there were a lot of movies that I do wanna catch up this month. Um, for example, there's the Mummy movie that is coming. And also I am actually anticipating the Michael Jackson movie. That one I am really excited about. But in the meantime, for now, I gave myself the double feature of two movies that are in the horror spectrum, and of course, they are from different countries. The movies I'm talking about are none other than The Faces of Death and Exit 8. And this is the only theme that I got with the for this double feature, which also I'm gonna turn this into a double feature vlog because I'm gonna talk about both movies, in which one of them I have some little history with it, and the other one, let's say that I'm a sucker for Japanese horror. So let's not waste any time and let's go with the first topic. You just saw my Halloween special from 2 years ago. I did have the audacity to watch this exploitative movie known as Faces of Death, in which this is a kind of like a movie from from the 1970s, late 1970s, mind you, which is kind of plays out like a mockumentary, but it has very, very, very explicit and very, very gory sceneries, in which basically it's about people dying while a doctor named what was it, Alfred B. Gross, something like that, kind of like a really silly name, in which he kind of say that, well, after I failed to save this patient from an open heart surgery, now I'm beginning to ponder about life and death. And then it's kind of like a couple of montages about the doctor kind of being a little bit pretentious on saying, look how this is how they do, how they get killed, how is life, and all this stuff, and you get kind of like the imagery of for example, a chicken getting beheaded, a slaughterhouse, a monkey being hammered, beaten to death with a hammer, so they can eat his brains. What else there is? A criminal being executed. A shooting on a house. Some guy who got run over by a semi truck. some guy who laying down on the beach dead is very there's the very nasty stuff, and you might think like, is this a snuff film? Well, yes and no, because here's the interesting part about the Faces of Death is that at least 40% of the footage that you see are actually real, but it's mostly the kind of like the archive section, and some of the human fatalities in the movie, that those were actually dramatization, like the execution scenes, and almost all the other things are pretty much fake. They're all fake. The only things that are not fake are unfortunately the animals getting killed and some of the archives. I think that the man that they found drowned on the beach, I think that was actually real. There's also a scene with a crocodile. I think that was also fake and all this stuff. But pretty much that movie, this movie got banned from in many countries because of the explicit thing. So with that in mind, I was surprised that they decided to bring back, with a movie named Faces of Death, the 2026 version. And much to my surprise, it's not exactly kind of like a remake, but more like how could I describe it? We'll say that it's mostly like what would kind of like if you kind of decided to make Faces of Death almost like Silence with the Lambs plus what was it? The Book of Shadows, Blair Witch Project kind of thing, in which the movie exists, and then someone wants to make a movie out of it. So that's kind of like the whole enchilada. So yeah, it's almost like Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. Because the premise of this new movie is about this woman. What was the name of this woman? Margot. She played by this actor named Barbie Ferreira, who she's an internet model who she's pretty much obsessed that she wants that. She's pretty much obsessed with everything, the violence that is happening on the internet, and she's very much modding them, kind of saying that this is you can put this, you can put that, because she's in a company of mods and all this stuff. But of course, she is dealing with the trauma that she lost her sister while they were making a YouTube video. Well, the sister, she just technically slipped. She just slipped, fall, and the rain run over her. But suddenly, she gets kind of like this big attention when she finds out that she finds some very, very, very disturbing murders on videos, in which people are saying that it's probably fake, but she begins to convince herself that they are real. Of course, apparently no one believes her, and then connecting the pieces, she kind of realizes that these murders are actually imitating the cult movie Faces of Death. It has even the narration of the doctor from that movie. So pretty much she wants to investigate and find evidence that these murders are real, especially because the murderer is actually capturing people that apparently he deems he just picks victims, capture them, and make them reenact a scene from the original Faces of Death. And so that's pretty much, again, like Silence of the Lambs, it kind of turned into a cat and mouse chase scene for a criminal copycat. And you might sound that it feels like I am talking about Scream. Well, it kind of sounds like a movie Scream, but at the end of the day, how was the movie itself? I can't deny that I was kind of amused, but man, that this movie is pretty dumb. This was a really, really dumb movie. in the sense that it kind of tried to take itself a little bit too seriously, but a lot of things kind of like doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense in how things kind of like work out. Mostly, I will say that it's mostly the action of the character because the main protagonist, while you get why she's kind of obsessed by the whole thing, she kind of has this kind of messiah complex that she wants. She says that she wants to make a difference solving this crime and all this stuff, and for reasons, all these things actually reminded me of a better movie, and that movie was censored. No. I don't mean that the movie was censored. No. The movie is named Censored. That was a British movie that I did make a vlog out of it years ago, and that was a brilliant movie. The brilliant movie that actually makes fun about like censoring the people that takes all these video nastics very seriously, and we have kind of like this character who also lost someone, but it's kind of like she lost someone because it disappeared, and thinks that and she begins to blame the violence in media and all this stuff. In this case, we got a character who she's on drugs because she has to take the medication. She's also trying to escape the whole because apparently she is being called the train girl because the video that she made with her sister went viral. But honestly, now that I think about it, no one even in their correct mind are gonna put kind of like this video in which someone gets killed for real. I mean, they do it all the time, yeah. And honestly, I'm not gonna say that I usually like to hear these kind of stories because sometimes it's a train wreck that it's hard to avoid. And yeah, the movie tried to criticize these things about that we see people suffering or what was it? People suffering or bad things happening, and we see it out of our amusement. Although the main character kind of takes it a little bit too seriously to the point that she kind of makes the crusade to find that killer. In which, yeah, it is real, but unfortunately, the main character she basically she doesn't get too much of a believable circumstantial evidence to prove that these murders are happening here and there. But even the kind of like even though she tries the police kind of like a second hand, and the people are like, man, I don't believe you. Or some people are like, hey, are you the train girl? And even he breached the trust of her boss, who he gave her the opportunity. But on the other hand, there is the amusing part because the scenes with the killer who is the killer what was it? I don't know who plays the guy. I doesn't say much about the name, but let's say that the guy, I heard that the guy plays some guy named Billy from Stranger Things. Oops. Apparently Spencer liked him because he swooned. Do you like that guy? Well, here's the thing. That guy was actually the best part of the movie because the guy is so batshit psychotic that he really fit in the universe of Silence of the Lambs. And whenever he goes psycho, he really goes psycho. And sometimes the guy, he's a little bit kind of like going 2 steps ahead from almost everyone, although not for a long shot. We see kind of like the scenes in which he kidnaps someone because, well, the guy is very thick-skinned and doesn't like criticisms. And then he captures the victim. He drugged them and then put them in a kind of like in a jail. in a prison, the underground basements and all this stuff on a cage. And then of course he uses mannequins in order to build up an imitation of the Faces of Death, which is kind of like his favorite movie, and he's very obsessed in making a remake of it because, according to him, remakes is the age of remakes, and remakes are awesome and all this stuff. Oh, dude, wait until someone will give him kind of like a long-winded speech about why Disney remakes are awful. Well, not just Disney remakes, but almost every remake. It's almost like the book. This is what I'm saying. The movie is trying to be a little bit on the social commentary, not just about remakes, but also about the desensitization of the of the people with the media, because he is very the psychopath is kind of very popular online because people are saying that, hey, that looks good, but no one notices if it's fake or not. And of course some of them our main protagonist being the mother. She pretty much also do a poor job, because even most of those things that they imitate looks really, really fake and all this stuff. She has kind of like her roommate boyfriend who is an artist, and that guy also kind of goes in almost nowhere. And you kind of feel bad for the poor guy. That's pretty much there is. But yeah, the acting is fine. The main character is fine. I already told you that the actor who makes the psychopath is hilarious. If there's blood and gore, I will say that honestly it's kind of tame compared that if you watch the original Faces of Death. So I don't know why the movie, or some people saying that this is too much, when unfortunately they pick the tamest things and the things that are fake in Faces of Death. I already told you that because the whole when the movie Faces of Death is put on the spotlight, even the artist roommate is like, but all these movies, all of it were fake. Not all of them. The slaughterhouse, the chopping of the head of the chicken, those are not fake. So yeah, it's like I said, not everything. 40% of the archive of the footage and the archives are actually real. So you didn't, and honestly, if this movie was more risque, it will really up the ante by showing some of those. Well, I'm kind of hesitating because it's gonna sound like horrible, because I told you this movie has slaughterhouse killings, and this movie doesn't do it because well, for one part, it's illegal nowadays. This is illegal, so you can't. At this point, you can't do that. But at least I appreciate that they tried. But if they don't mention it, so the people who are people who hasn't seen the originals, they're gonna think that it's pretty tame. But no, they really. I mean, even the Blair Witch Project nowadays is kind of like tame compared to how it was before. I do remember when the Blair Witch Project was there, everyone was into it, and then they wanted to make a movie, kind of making a meta out of it with Book of Shadows, Blair Witch Project 2, and look how it got. And this one suffers a little bit the same, kind of like the same problem. And so there were kind of like there's a bit of kind of like a gory aspect, but that one comes off how can I say, off screen, and you only have some blood and all this stuff, and the climax kind of goes down a little bit when the whole execution becomes kind of like dumber. The characters do kind of like dumb things, like for example, let's say that our killer, he has some stormtrooper accuracy with a sniper rifle, with a protagonist that is big on size. No disrespect, but that's how it felt. So honestly, this I was. It's only a dumb movie. The Faces of 2026 is pretty much a milquetoast tribute to the Faces of Death movie, but in its way, it kind of pulls out a lot of the same faults that Book of Shadow Blair Witch 2 did to its original movie. And this one, well, granted it is better than Book of Shadow Blair Witch Project 2, but it's just more kind of just a below average kind of film. So honestly, you might be off just watching the original. But again, if this is only for curious people who really have more guts, again, I highly tell you that Faces of Death, the original, is more of a curiosity, but a very morbid curiosity. And I warn you that there are scenes that are really, really strong in it that it's not for everyone. It's just a curiosity piece, and that's pretty much it. So after going through that, I'm gonna go now for I decided to go for a Japanese movie, and that's the next movie I'm gonna talk about. Exit 8 is another video game adaptation movie that came out this year. I mean, man, how many did we got at this point this year? We had Iron Lung, Mario Galaxy. There's also the Mortuary Assistant, which I'm not gonna bother to watch. That horrible Silent Hill movie, and this is the fifth one. What was it? Exit 8. And Mortal Kombat 2 is coming. What else are we're gonna get this year? Well, anyway, so I never play Exit 8. Sometimes I struggle. I almost wanted to call it Super 8, but no, it's Exit 8, which is. But I saw the Game Grumps playing it. It's basically this small indie game, very simple premise. You're in first person, walking through the Japanese subway, but a very, very claustrophobic subway. I mean, it could be worse. It could be a New York subway. Okay, that was my colorful joke for this moment. In which basically you go into this underground subway, and you're looping through it, and almost there's no exit. You go through the same scenes, and you all see a guy in a suitcase just going around every single time. It's almost like you're playing PT or something like that. But here's the gist. Here's the base of the game. There is a sign in the game that says that you must pinpoint an anomaly. If you don't find an anomaly, you walk straight. But if you find an anomaly, you must go back. And the point of the game is that you must do that 8 times in order to finally exit. So for this simple premise, I'm surprised that they made a movie out of it, and not just a simple horror movie, but a Japanese horror movie. I really love J-horror, and I mean, even some of the dumbest that I have seen has some entertaining value out of it. And so far, the only good video game movie I have seen this year is Iron Lung. And we already know how others went. Like well, it's the Silent Hill movie, and I haven't seen the Mortuary Assistant, and truth be told, even though I'm boycotting the Mario Galaxy movie, I do hear really mixed feelings about it. But that's just between the critics and the fans. So where do I land with S8? Well, that one I like it much better compared to Faces of Death, because that movie was actually more clever than you can imagine. It took a very simple movie. It took a very simple premise from a game, got all these elements, and then give it a little bit of kind of like a more simpler story, but still psychological in nature. Blend it together, write some story about it, and make it work. And what make it work is that it works better if you haven't even played the games, or maybe you can if you play the game. As someone who didn't play the game and not seeing much of the whole what the premise is, again, I only saw the Game Grumps playing this game. It really gets you into these pretty much the most unsettling I Spy game you could ever see. Because here's the thing, when I meant about anomalies in the game and even in the movie, it can be almost like anything. Everything looks the same. You have the posters, the signs, the guy, the door. Sometimes it can be a little bit subtle. Like, for example, a door handle might be on the wrong direction, or a sign is gonna look different. It's just here and there. Again, over like Where's Waldo or I Spy, or what makes the difference. But sometimes it can be a little bit in your face. Like, for example, the lights will turn off, or a monster will appear, or blood is gonna drip somewhere. Something that will scare you. So these kinds of anomalies, and it could be anything. So this is where the tension happened, and it worked in the movie in the sense that we have at first this character. Our main protagonist is the lost guy, and we don't get a name of any of the characters. In which we get this introduction about this man who he's on a busy subway on rush hour in Japan, and then of course he's listening to bolero, which is one of my favorite orchestral music there is. He's trying to ignore what was it? A woman carrying a baby who is crying, and then some rude man saying that, "Why you shut this baby?" And then he gets a phone call from his ex-girlfriend saying that she's pregnant, and they want to discuss if he wants to keep the baby, or you know what. Then he's trying to make kind of like this decision, because he kind of shows that he's wishy-washy. Then he suddenly stumbles upon the exit 8 thing, in which he has to go through this corridor loop, and I already told you the rules of the whole thing. He gets lost, and as the movie goes on, you kind of begin to feel the character claustrophobia, in which you begin to feel bad for the character, and it captures the frustration in which you think that you solved the puzzle, but then just like in the game, if you fail to follow the order, or for example, if you miss the anomaly and still you go forward instead of going backwards, it resets the game. You have to do it all over again. And there's a counter in which saying that you are in level 0 or level 1, level 2, level 3. You have to reach up to level 8. But if you make a mistake, you go back to level 0. and the frustration that the character gets if he makes a mistake is real. And it doesn't help also that his frustration is combined that the poor guy suffers asthma. And you know that in a situation like that where his blood pressure might rise, it's not very good for an asthmatic person. And of course, I'm not gonna try to spoil too much about the movie, but I will just say that just like the game, there is this NPC character of a guy with how can I say, he walks around with a suitcase, and he's there kind of also to bring out some creepy value. Well, let's say that they gave this NPC on the video game a little bit more three-dimensionality. They actually made him a character who is also in this kind of situation. And there's also some other characters, like for example, there's a child that is involved who is also in this mess. And so, and the movie doesn't explain you too much, but if it kind of gives you the pieces to pull to make you think how they're gonna do this whole thing, what this place is, but it doesn't give you the kind of like a specific answer of what is it. It's just that. It's almost like movies like Cube or what was the other one that I saw, Circle. Yeah, Circle. About those kind of movies in which something happened and you don't have time to explain what that thing is. It could be a purgatory for all I care. The only thing that matters is trying to get out. That's the whole thing that happens. And a lot of the anomalies that happen during the movie, again, subtle, or sometimes they can get unnerving or scary. There's something that involves babies crying, which is kind of funny because I played Resident Evil 8 recently, and there's a moment with the baby that is fresh in my mind, and now it came back to me, by the way. And yeah, the movie isn't actually bloody, I'll say. It's just more about the tension and the mood. And that doesn't use too much CGI, but there's a kind of like a neat camera trick, especially at the beginning, in which the whole perspective is on first person for 10 minutes. It is basically a long shot in which in which you gotta hear how they do it with the director commentary, that they actually made kind of like a two rooms to make kind of like the sensation of the loop, and that was brilliant. I would say it felt. It almost tried the kind of like the Birdman kind of cinematography, in which it's one consistent shot during the whole movie, but it's only for 10 minutes, but still to make this feeling that is an infinite loop. That was actually brilliant, I'll say. So if there's a little bit of a nitpick, I'll say, because I don't think that many people will get too into it. Somebody will still think that it's not gonna deliver too much. That's what I've been hearing, at least on the negative side, because I'm hearing IGN gave it a 5 out of 10, but well, we'll listen to it. IGN, because honestly, when I was with a movie theater that was packed on a small theater, and everyone was satisfied, and many people I even hear people saying out loud that it was really good, and I agree. The movie was really good, but if I'm gonna lower a little bit the ego, the movie is not exactly for everyone. It's you think that they're gonna have kind of like more monster or gore or something like that. It's not that kind of movie. It's just this moody, atmospheric movie that you either get it or not. And the best way I could describe how this movie can help is that, think of it as kind of like this game, this movie that in itself has a game. It's a game. You just try to watch where are the anomalies for by yourself. And sometimes there's anomalies that they doesn't tell you, but you just pinpoint it. And then when the character gets the wrong turn, it was like, dang it, dang it. That's pretty much the whole thing that I have to say about Exit 8. Exit 8, I give it a kind of like a very, very high recommendation. And this is a very recommendation that I give as really coming out from Faces of Death, which honestly, Face of Death was kind of like that dumb popcorn flick. So overall, that was my double feature on it, yeah, it just like Face of Death, her tagline said, it got what people wanted, at least on Exit 8. But hey, well, I got what I wanted. I got a good day. I got two movies with different spectrums of whether I like it or not. I mean, it could. I mean, it is. At least I will say that these movies are better than the Muppets trying to make the Faces of Death.